In the previous video, I talked about Tullus, who was a warlike king, turned into being a very religious king who was asking for forgiveness for his wars, the wars he was fighting. Now we have the person who came after him, the person who became king after Tullus, went the opposite direction. He started as a very someone who didn't like war, but he ended up fighting war. But for him, it was out of circumstances that came up. Now, I welcome you to my YouTube channel where I explore ancient texts. And ancient texts here, I mean texts that have been around for thousands of years. And now, at the moment, I'm going through the book From the Founding of the City by Titus Livius, or Livy, which is a collection of books, actually. And it's a collection of books that Livy wrote about 2,000 years ago. But it's a collection of books that covers the history of ancient Rome. So if you've not subscribed, subscribe so that you don't miss any of the videos that I upload. Plus, it will help me reach a big audience. Now, after the death of Tullus, there was a short interregnum, a period when the senators kind of like ruled. And then a new king was elected, and his name was Ancus Marcius. Now, Ancus Marcius happened to have been the grandson of King Numa Pompilius. And he was the grandson from, I think, the daughter of Numa Pompilius. He was a son of the daughter of Numa Pompilius. And when he came to power, he had this, he was mindful, the way Livy puts it, he was mindful of his grandfather's glory. Remember, Numa Pompilius is the king who kind of made Rome to be a peaceful city, like to love peace more than war. And after him, of course, Tullus comes, and Tullus was a warlike king. But now the grandson of Numa Pompilius comes to power, and he wants to take the city back to the time of his father. That's what basically was trying to do. And in fact, Livy tells us that Ancus considered Tullus' reign as a failure. In fact, he considered it as a failure because it had failed it had allowed misconduct of religious observances. That's how Livy puts it. So he put in a plan to return the city back to where it was during his grandfather's reign, and I've said that. Now, part of what he did, he was to tell the pontifex, someone who was in charge of religious matters, to create new records and try to see how things should be done again in a religious way. And that was done. And then people were happy about this, the way Livy puts it. People were hopeful that the institutions that his grandfather had put in place were coming back. But now that created a weakness. Him focusing on trying to make Rome be what it was during his grandfather's time became a weakness, because the neighboring tribes, and in particular the Latins, and you should know that the Latins were also kind of like relatives of the Romans, saw it as an opportunity. And in fact, Livy tells us that they raided the Roman territory, because to them they thought like this king who is in power now is so much focused on religious matters that he wouldn't be in a position to fight us. And in fact, Livy said that he writes, they were persuaded that the Roman king will spend his reign in inactivity amid shrines and altars. So that's how they saw it, and to them that was an opportunity to attack. So they attacked the Roman territory. That at this moment, Ancus was quick in thinking, and he realized the times of his grandfather were different. They were not the same times. And he realized that he had to do things in a different way, and he decided to be balanced. And that means he decided, yeah, we're going to play peace, but we are also going to be prepared for war. Because if we just play peace and we ignore war, then we are likely to be conquered by others. So he put in place a plan to attack the Latins, but he decided to do things different from what Tullus used to do when he went to war. And he decided that he was going to come up with a way of declaring war. He didn't believe in just up and go and attack. He decided there was going to be a process by which a war is declared. So he created a process, you can call it a protocol. And the protocol involved, if another state has wronged Rome, he will send out somebody, I think a priest if I'm not wrong, and the priest will go and request the other people to acknowledge they've wronged Rome, and maybe to provide some kind of compensation for whatever wrong they've done, and that matter will end there. And that's what the priest will go and do. And if the other side accepts they've wronged and they are ready to solve the problem without war, then that matter ends there like that. If they decline, then the priest will come back, and there will be a process of asking permission from the gods, especially God Jupiter and God Janus, to grant permission to declare war. And that is done before now the senators vote to declare war. So he came up with that process of declaring war, and Livy tells us that process remained or stayed in place for many years after he was dead. So it was no longer like, oh, the king feels like going to war, let's go to war. No, he created a protocol where there was a process of declaring war on another nation. And so he tried this process. Of course, the first place he tried it with the Latins, and the Latins were not in the mood for peace. They were really prepared to fight. And so the war started between the Romans and the Latins. It's interesting because the Latins then became the Romans, or we associate Latin with Romans basically. So the war was fought, and the Romans won under Ancus. And after the Latins have been defeated, like it was done with the Sabines and the Albans, they were forced to become Romans, and they were brought in by force, and they were transferred from their cities, and they were made to be Romans. So that's how Ancus, who came in with a mindset of, I don't like war, I don't want war, I want peace and people to be religious and forget about war, was forced into starting a war, basically going the opposite direction of what Tullus became. But he was forced by circumstances, even though Tullus was also forced by circumstances to become more religious, but for him it was more of self-preservation rather than of public good. For Ancus, it was more of public good, and he did something else in a better way. He decided, I'm going to go to war, but I'm going to create a process by which Rome can declare war on its